live. It might go black for a minute.
Okay.
Or something like that. Okay. And we are live. So welcome everyone. This is always a challenge for me with the technology, but I'll get it. I'll get it one of these days. So welcome to Heart and Soul, How to Live an Extraordinary Life. And my name is Michele Landers. I'm a board certified life coach, a certified hypnotherapist, a numerologist, and the author of 2 books, The Tao of Numbers and The Year of Living Miraculously. And I've studied and taught in the fields of spirituality, metaphysics, psychology, law of attraction, and self-empowerment for over 30 years. And I am lucky to be living my passion. So every week on Heart and Soul, we have thought-provoking topics and speakers who share their experiences and their knowledge and their insights with the intention of supporting you in your spiritual and your mental and emotional growth. And that is also true of the entire Enlightened World Network and Enlightened Living, where we just love to share information with you from a variety of light workers, energy practitioners, and more, and all who have just gathered together to bring you positive and uplifting program to support you. So I encourage you, check out Enlightened World Network, which you can online, on Facebook, on YouTube. We have chanting, we have meditations, we have shows just like this, what we're doing tonight, and it's all fun and it's all uplifting. So my guest tonight is the very lovely and talented psychic Hallie Elise. And before I introduce Hallie, I just want to tell you a little bit about our very interesting show tonight, which was unplanned until yesterday when Hallie brought up the subject of sexuality and spirituality. And I kind of went, oh, like all of a sudden, like that was a new thing to me. But most times these 2 very important aspects of our lives seem to be in opposition. And you may be surprised to learn tonight they are not. But how is it that sex and spirituality is considered opposite, or at worst, sex as something we indulge in, but there's no connection whatsoever spiritually? Well, if we go back to the story of Adam and Eve, we're told that they committed the first sin. And we know what that meant when we were told, well, that's what it meant when we were told that Eve took a bite of that forbidden fruit. Now, there are lots of religions who think of sex as sin, but there are also a lot of religions that glorify sex. But for the most part, and usually that's true of the out west, here in the Western world, somewhere it became embedded in our brain, and generation after generation, the thought that although sex is natural, it's really this base animalistic craving, and it should be kept very quiet. And if you're really holy, you don't have sex. As an example, priests are supposed to be celibate. And we know how well that has worked out sometimes, without starting a discussion here about that. But, you know, times have really changed, and even priests' ideas have changed. And here's a quote from a Roman Catholic priest, Thomas Merton, and perhaps you've heard about him, and his book, Love and Living. And he said, properly understood, sexual union is an expression of deep personal love and a means to the deepening, perfecting, and sanctifying of that love. So what he is saying is that when pure, sexual love can take on a quality that is sacred, and the link between sex and spirituality is strong. So with that, I'd like to tell you about my amazing guest and empowerment psychic, Hallie Elise. And I've known Hallie for many, many years, and she's been communicating with audiences for over 3 decades now, the same amount of time that I've been involved in the metaphysical field. And she's been on television and radio. She's done stage presentations, and she possesses an incredible degree of psychic skill. And her priority is to provide you with an authentic, multifaceted, and an energetic experience. She's written articles for so many publications, including the Thank God. Oh, and she's a contributing author, by the way, to the Thank God One series. Now, Hallie was also included in the top 100 psychics in America in 2014. She's been featured in the news multiple times in the Sun Sentinel and the Palm Beach Post, the Boca News. And perhaps you may even know Hallie from her long-running radio program, The Hallie Elise Show, which was on WNN Radio, 1470 AM, 95.3 FM with simulcasts on AMP2 TV. So her appearances include the ABC Radio Network, the Deborah Duncan Show in Texas, and the TLC television crew even filmed an episode of Jazz at Hallie's office featuring Hallie's abilities. And in the book, if you happen to have read this book, Bridge of Deaths by M.C.V. Egan, one of the main characters was modeled after Hallie. So Hallie's got a long list of accreditations behind her, and I think she's incredible. And you can connect with Hallie bi-weekly with her column in the New Pelican newspaper, or you can contact her at 561-755-2166. And I know there's so much more to say about you, Hallie, but that would take the whole show. So welcome, Hallie. And I'm so glad for you to be our guest tonight and tell us what we're going to be talking about.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Well, as you know, when we were having the conversation, I'm not even sure how it came about. We started talking about just different things that are taking place in life, in the world, and spirituality, and sexuality came up. Maybe because it's one of my favorite topics. Or maybe it's because I'm not currently involved with somebody else. I'll have to give that more thought later. However,
I know a good coach that could help you with that.
The point that I'm making, though, is it's interesting. You mentioned earlier about the priest who said making love in essence can be so much more. It's not just sex. And spirituality and lovemaking, as far as I'm concerned, go hand in hand. When we speak in terms of vibration and energy, we're always talking about raising our energy, expanding our energy. When we are in an intimate situation, that's exactly what we do. We expand our energy. And it's interesting because if you do an aura picture, for instance, prior to a couple being intimate, if you focus on the person who is the primary, and the reason I say that because today we have different genders, and I don't want to offend anyone, and I will just say, so the primary, meaning the person who's initiating. If you do an photo of them first, you'll notice that their field is really vast, really big, really rich and red in color. Whereas the person who's on more of the receiving end, they're going to have a wide field, but the color is different and it's not going to be as large. After, I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that. Wow.
Afterwards, if you take another aura photograph, you'll find that the person who is the individual who's initiating, their field has changed. It's diminished, its color has softened, it's changed, and the other person's field is larger. So there is something about that psycho-spiritual as well as physical interacting.
Really amazing.
When we look too at the act itself, you think about not so much energy. Think about your breathing, think about heart rate, think about pulse, think about all these things. All of those things are connected to our life force. What is our life force? Energy. And it takes me full circle back to when we are thinking in terms of love. When we speak about ascending, what are we doing? We're looking towards the light. We're looking towards the love. We are looking towards that spiritual nature that we know belongs to all of us. But it still comes back to that energy, that kinetic energy, that movement, connecting us with the divine.
So true, so true. And I wanted to say a little bit something about that. And but first, I want to say hello. And I'm so glad I'm starting to get this down. You know, this whole being able to
Watching,
communicate with
okay,
people
it's great because
because
I looked and it didn't do anything on my end.
I know I just want because it's so important. I want this to be interactive, and I just haven't gotten it quite down specifically, but I'm doing my best and I've figured out how to at least see who's making some of the comments. So I just wanted to say hi to Gabby and Lauren. I want to say hi. John, you made it on. Thank you so much. Annie, hi. Um, and oh, John, you're liking this. Terry, she's on too. Terry Angel and
Oh,
Kim.
hi, Terry.
Yeah, Terry's on. And Heather, you made it on too. And I just want to say if you have anyone has any comments, I will do my best and Hallie will do her best as well for us to see the comments. I don't always see all of them and I apologize, but if there's something you want to ask or something you want to say, please know that if you comment, I do go back and check the comments afterwards and you know, if there's anything you want to know, we'll be happy to answer you. So yeah, this is a really hot topic. And one of the things I say, I wore something kind of spicy, like printy, you know, in
Animal. You were
animal
animal.
animal
Animal
print
print.
tonight. I don't normally, but you know, and I was going to have a big glass of wine, but that never works if I'm doing a show because we'd be talking till midnight. And before you know it, I would invite everybody over to the house, which really would be great,
Oh, wow.
except we're doing this COVID. But I had a friend who said that what she really wanted to do was and I, at first, when I heard this years ago, I kind of laughed, but it's really true. She said she wanted to reach orgasm while she was at the height of her meditation.
Mhm.
Now, that's not so crazy and off the wall, though, is it?
No, as I mentioned last night, years ago, and I mean years ago, when I taught over at Nova, that was around 1995 when I started there teaching, and I was there for many years, and I taught meditation. Well, one of the classes we touched on that, and it's very funny because the administrator would come in periodically and he'd just shake his head and smile and walk out the door. But I didn't have anybody doing anything too over the top in class. However, I did have audio tapes. Anybody remember cassette tapes? You know, way before CDs and all of that, and
Tapes,
a
right?
specific meditation that guided you and your partner to a state of meditation and that high, and also how to interact with each other physically at the same time. And I gave out samples to friends. And I said, okay, you and your wife play with this a little bit, no pun intended or pun intended, and get back to me. Let me know what you thought. And everybody had the same reaction, which was, wow, that was really relaxing, but it also was really invigorating at the same time. I've never experienced it that way before.
Wow. Are
It's
you still
beautiful.
doing those classes?
I've been thinking about starting up a whole bunch of different classes again because it's been years that I've done, we'll say, weekly classes. It's been more informal these days, where, for instance, the psychic gallery is once a month and it's virtual. Things are shifting because of our world, but I am giving a lot of thought to spending a little bit more time on the things that are considered a bit esoteric as well as eclectic. It's not the mainstream.
I think that's really a great idea. I think this is a great topic to bring up because we usually don't talk about it. We usually keep it separate. And okay, John said don't get him started. He's going to be good. And Lauren says, okay, John, you can say anything you want. Lauren says, your energy moves wildly after sex. I hear my energy moving after I do the deed. Okay, wow. Yeah, well, I get that. And then she said the best of Michael Jackson and the Dangerous album by him too. And she says she has cassette tapes as well. So, yeah, I think it's important that we understand how our energy can increase and how we can channel that into a spiritual our spiritual evolution, to stop thinking of it, as separate, and that they don't go together. And if to be holy, you don't have sex. It's so far from the truth. Now, I was raised Catholic, and I'm telling you, that is a challenge. It really is, because it's considered, sex was considered something that you had to do,
Right.
or you didn't have to do it, but you did it for,
Procreate because you
that
need
was
it.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And what was the big message, right? You could not take birth control,
Right.
because the message was loud and clear. You have sex only to procreate, not for any pleasure that it gives.
You have a
And
specific duty.
right. So, how did you first, get involved in learning more about sexuality and spirituality?
To be very candid, things tend to come to me. And then somebody will show up in my life that there is either a discussion about, or there is something I'm invited to. With this, to me, it was a logical progression because I've been connecting with energy ever since I was a little kid. I would talk about rocks and shells and how they had personalities and they vibrated, and people would look at me like I was a strange little child, except for my mom's friends who knew me. But it was really just that progression. It was an understanding as I studied more, because I wanted to know what it was that I was doing psychically. I would come across things and I would feel my way through to see, does this feel right? Does this not feel right? Is this true or not? But also, I was introduced to a Kundalini yoga master. I have a shaman friend. Both of them agree that that particular energy, that kinetic energy, if you want Kundalini energy, it is used not just for the enjoyment, but as you say, the evolution of the soul. It is that embodiment. And in a lot of pagan religions, when they are being intimate, when they are being sexual, they're focusing on that energy that's being delivered within the orgasm as something that helps them expand in their life. And for instance, a guy could be focusing on his girl, and let's say she's having a hard time with an issue emotionally, or she's having a hard time financially. And while they're together in that moment of ejaculation, there's that focus on she should be successful, or she should be healed, or she should be well. However you phrase it doesn't
Yes.
matter. It's the
Yes.
intention though. And even when you work together and your focus is just on the two of you, if you're focusing on the two of you enjoying at your height, if you're focusing on the two of you melding together, because really think about it, you are together when you are being intimate at that level. It's not supposed to be about my stuff or his stuff. It's supposed to be about our stuff. And that's where Tantra comes in. And Tantra is a great example of where that
I was just gonna
energy,
bring that up about Tantra sex. Yes. So please.
it is a great example of how you manipulate your energy so that it benefits both of you on a
Mhm.
multitude of levels. It is not just the enjoyment of the physical touch. It is not just that high. It is not just coming to that point of climax, but it is understanding that you have the ability within you to actually manipulate your energy for a positive outcome greater than just that moment.
Right, exactly. And Kim is saying you put intent behind it too, and I agree with that. You put
Yes.
intent behind it. And what I mean, it's just such a beautiful spiritual moment when you come together in that way, because we all want that union with our higher power. And in a sense, in the right way, done in the right way and done with loving intent,
Yes.
um, that's what happens. You have this incredible union, this high that raises your spirituality. And Osho, who is an, are you familiar with Osho? You are, right? Of course
Yes.
you are. Indian mystic. He said, because I wrote this down and I thought, yeah, this is so great. When sex becomes a meditation, it
Ta-da.
it flowers into love. And this flowering is a movement towards the divine. In the same way, the more you meditate, the less sex will have an appeal to you. And that same energy that is flowed through sex will now flow through meditation. And when it flows through meditation, the divine door is being open. But he also does say, it's possible, and that's what you want to do. It's possible to meditate and have a beautiful sexual experience. And we're not talking about anything that's deviant, although I guess everything, whatever it is that,
There's
right? I'm
always
not
other
sure how
sides.
far I should go here, but now, is it possible on this show
Hmm.
to give anyone any tips?
Well, sure. That's really
Yeah,
not that difficult.
okay. I wasn't sure, I'm thinking, well, am I going into a area that I may
It
not
could
want
be
to?
risque. I won't
Right,
actually conduct a sexual meditation because I think that might be over the line, especially if this is on multiple platforms and we don't know what age group is watching. Try to
right.
keep it as palatable for everybody as possible. That said,
Yeah.
what you want to do is before you begin anything, as one of your people said in the comments, you want to have a strong intention. What is that intention? What is the outcome other than the climax? We know that's a
Yeah,
given.
I was just going to say, what
That's
is
a given.
mostly,
But what is the outcome connected to that? Meaning, think about it like this. If you are a goal oriented person and you want to get from point A to point B in your career, you don't just go, oh, well, I'll just go along and I'll see what happens. No, you have it strong within your mind, within your consciousness as to which way you're going and how you should do it and what the pace is to help you get there. And Harvard has shown this as well as a lot of the other Ivy League schools. If you go into beta, which is your daily interactive state, you kind of have censorship about that upper level, that connection. But if you take it a little deeper, which is alpha state, which is kind of that feel of I'm kind of sleeping, I still hear everything, I'm aware, but I'm not aware, and you have the ability to focus. I guess an example would be when you're laying down and your eyes are closed, maybe you're taking a nap, and you kind of hear things in the background, but you're not really paying attention to them. Or when you're driving your car and you've missed your exit and it was 3 exits ago, and you go, what on earth is going on? You were in alpha state. And we achieve alpha state quite often and don't even realize it, which means we are in a meditative state. Now, there are other states that are deeper, which you really want to focus on and aim towards as a future goal. But for a quick scenario here, if you allow yourself to get quiet, kind of go into that daydreamy state, and really allow your breathing to be something that you're focusing on in and with intention, in addition to your outcome, you will find yourself shift into a place of total peace. And you will find that as you are in that state, whether you pleasure yourself or you're with a mate, you will find that just starting out by being in that slightly altered state of consciousness actually enhances your experience. And you can continue to go from there. So it's beta, it's alpha, it's theta, it's delta, and there's another state as well. And it's funny because we'll always talk about that going higher, raising vibration, but you're actually going into a deeper state of consciousness with each level.
that state, I recognize that as, for me, it's right at the edge of sleep, right at the edge, right before I'm fully in. I go under completely just before that, right at the edge of sleep, or right before I wake up in the morning, that state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of ideas come from,
Absolutely.
to me. And a lot of messages come in that state, you're in between.
The
Um,
difference, though, is doing it with intention to be in that state versus it just coming naturally, which it does, as you're explaining. It's also within hypnosis, it's a hypnagogic state, thinking of dinner.
it's funny because I am a hypnotherapist, and people are always seem to be, oh, I just want to say, oh, Heather, that's okay. Don't worry. I'll talk to you soon. I'm glad that you tuned in. Um, okay, so about hypnotherapy and what you were describing, I love it. Like when you miss an exit,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, how did I get here? And I explain to people that we're not aware of the fact that we go into trance, because that's what it is, a trance.
Absolutely.
How how many times a day do we do that? We do things, what we call it, mindlessly, because we're in this trance-like state. And that's what, as you know, because you do hypnotherapy too,
Mhm.
hypnosis is that trance-like state. You're aware of what's going on, but you're not really tuned into it. You're inside, you're in here. And I recommend hypnotherapy for everybody because it can really, right, it can change your life. Now
Absolutely.
this is something that I wanted to talk to you about too, which I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because anybody who's had like maybe a Catholic background or something, this might help.
Jewish
Sex,
background.
Jewish sex is really a beautiful, beautiful thing. Of course, you can take anything to the extreme. You can you can get addicted to sex, but you can get addicted to spirituality, and that's not a good thing. People think, oh well, if I'm addicted to spirituality, that's great. No, it's not, because
Any
it's
addiction
a
is
I
bad.
right. It's just as bad. I have to do this. You're not doing it for your spiritual evolution. You're doing it as, I have to have this. And spirituality, as you know, is all about letting go. It's
Mm-hmm.
letting go of things, not grasping onto things. But something really important I wanted to talk about, because I don't know a lot about it. Um, I know that oftentimes there'll be poltergeist activity in a house with teenagers.
Yes,
Now, is that tied into their growing, their puberty, their growing, their hormones, and their sexual energy?
it is. It is also a matter of they don't quite know how to ground. I should say most of them don't quite know how to ground at that point. So there is all of this volatile energy that's just moving. It's in flux and it's got to go somewhere. And without realizing, it's expelled, it's sent out. Again, there's that kinetic energy, there's that psychic energy. And it's got to go somewhere, whether it's focused on making plants grow or it's focused on what's coming next in their world through meditation and visualization, or it's just, like, I don't know what's going on with me and I'm restless, ping ponging all over the place. But it happens with young children too, not just teens. It often happens with children under the age of 5, where there is that restlessness and that energy has to go somewhere.
Interesting. I didn't know that either. Have you been involved with any teenagers who had that kind of activity going on ever? And what did you suggest or do?
I've had a couple over the years that were clients' children, and I would have them come in and have the parents stay with them because, as far as I was concerned, if they're under 18, they should have parents accompanying them, unless the parent specifically said, no, I'm okay, and stood outside the door. But the focus really went to how were they feeling? Did they feel in control of their world? And most of the time they didn't. And once we were able to reveal that, then I would give them exercises that they could use to help center, to help channel that energy to where it needed to go. And that made a big difference. And the idea of poltergeist is just opening the door to a lot of, again, kinetic energy happening. Things, it seems like you've got these little gremlins running around the house causing mischief, but it's actually just energy that needs to be transmuted, because energy never dies, it just changes form.
Right. But in the case of poltergeist is okay, well, this is where it gets really wonky because I do believe that we're all one
Hmm.
and we're all connected anyway. So to for me to ask the question, is a poltergeist an entity outside of you? I guess in the big picture, no, it's not. But let's go to the little picture. Is a teenager projecting that energy and bringing that energy in? Is that what they're doing? They're
Well, they're not so much bringing it in, at least not to themselves, they're bringing it into the space. So they are attracting it. It is that flux that is attracting the actual poltergeist.
well, I find that most teenagers are not all of them, but most of them are um, either brooding or they are trying
Moody.
to find they're trying to find themselves, and it's a really challenging time, especially now, although as I said, because my granddaughter, she, not that she loves what's happening, but this situation is an introvert's dream because she loves being in a room, and she loves online schooling and everything. But with that said, I find that, teenagers have a lot of this uh, energy that is, all over the place. And it's hard to at times pull them in. And
It's
I just
also
wondered if it
makes
had, the poltergeist thing, if it had to do with their hormones and sexual, energy that, as because they're just developing into a sexual being, when you're a teenager, which has got to be, challenging. Um, I remember when I was younger and you start having all these feelings and you don't know, especially as I said, if you have a
Catholic
Catholic or a Jewish background, what do you do with that? Nothing. You're not allowed to. You're
home.
not allowed to do anything. So, yeah, so I think that this is so enlightening on so many levels, and people can, and there are, of course, people who abuse it, just
Yeah.
like anything else. But if you have a healthy and attitude about sexuality, you can incorporate that into your as part of your spiritual practice,
Yes.
right?
Really and truly, anybody who feels as if they want to know more, but they don't necessarily want to go talk with someone, pick up a book on Tantra, because it does teach you how to connect with yourself on a deeper level. And it teaches you how to connect with your partner on a deeper level. And you don't have to have a partner, just so that I'm clear here, because I don't want anyone to say, oh, well, she said you have to have a partner to do this. No, you can be by yourself and in control of what's going on. Though, what's the relationship to yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you honor yourself? Do you look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're beautiful? Do you connect with your soul? That makes a difference.
Very important. Um, and or people could read the Kama Sutra, which is all about the tantric tantra traditions as well. Yeah. So we tend to consider like the main purpose of sex as pleasure and not as a spiritual development or spiritual evolution or spiritual
Tool.
practice, Yes, right. So there's so much more that we can talk about on this subject. It's really amazing. And I think it'd be great if you do some classes on spirituality and sexuality. I would certainly be there and support you in that. But what I do want to also talk about is I know that you're an empowerment psychic. So, can you tell us a little bit about that? What that is all about, being an empowerment psychic?
Absolutely. And I'll make it clear, because I know today we hear the word medium all the time, and we assume everybody who is a psychic is a medium, and that's not quite right. There are lots of different modalities. There's clairaudience, clairsentience, there's, oh my goodness, clairvoyance, there's, oh, and I just drew a blank, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, there's 15 different types that are just very commonly known. Four main have to do with your senses and how you interpret information. Some
15?
people, yes.
Seriously. I mean, there's clairaudient, right?
So for
And
instance, clairgustance. You're
what
with
is
somebody, you get a taste on your lips of a something or
absolutely
other, and you say to the person you're with, "This is the weirdest thing. All of a sudden, I taste cherries," and they go, "Oh, that's so funny! I just climbed my uncle's cherry tree. I had a great time. Ate a whole bunch of cherries. That's really weird."
amazing. That's amazing. Yes.
But that's why I'm saying there's so many different modalities. It's not just about speaking to the other side. That said, my intention when I'm working with my clients, when I'm working with police officers or FBI or whoever, is to empower the situation. And that said, yes, I can give the individual information about, is Johnny going to marry them, or are they going to have 2 kids, or do they need to go to the doctor, this type of thing. But what also comes up for me a lot of times is, oh, your knee hurts, so you're lacking flexibility and moving forward. That situation with your ex is coming up, and the person will turn and go,
I'm
how
laughing. I'm laughing. Wait a minute. I'm laughing because my knee hurts. That's why I'm laughing.
Is it your left or your right? We could go into a whole thing here.
It's my right knee. It's my right knee. Funny.
With women, so just so that you have a guideline, right side tends to represent either that strong side of ourselves, or our what we would construe as our masculine side, strength, or it has to do with a man in our life or someone who was in our life that we, for whatever reason, have not been able to release. And so there is some, we'll just say rigidity, that's not even a word. Some
Okay, rigidity.
Thank you.
Okay.
In the area. And again, it goes back to that flexibility of, have we discovered everything that we had to in respect to that man? Are we allowing them to influence our life in this moment? Are we able to move forward? Are we able to forgive ourselves, to acknowledge ourselves in whatever part we took, and free ourselves from that, so that we do have that mobility? Those types of things come up when I sit with someone. As I said, we'll say basic everyday, is this happening? Is that happening? That comes through me, and I share that information. And what I find so funny is the way it comes through, because sometimes it's clairvoyance, sometimes it's claircognizance, sometimes it's clairaudience, sometimes it just shows up. And whatever way it shows up is what I share, which is a hoot, because there are times that it shows up in funny ways. And I'm going to share this one little thing, because I almost share it every time I do anything talking about psychic stuff, but it's just so much fun, especially since we're talking about sexuality. I have this client in my office, and as soon as she sits down, I get a picture of peanut butter in my head, and I hear the word peanut butter, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of queer. I'm not hungry. It doesn't feel like it has to do with her and food. I'm just going to leave it aside. Like, I'm just not going to pay attention to it. And I'm doing the reading, and I'm talking with her, and whatever's coming through, I'm sharing. But this peanut butter keeps showing up, almost as if somebody's yelling in my ears, peanut butter, and flashing this light of big, huge letters in the sky in front of me of peanut butter. And I'm thinking, as I'm giving her this reading, I am not telling this woman peanut butter. This is just absolutely ridiculous. What do I do with this? And so I keep kind of pushing it aside, trying to focus on whatever else comes through. At the very end of the reading, we're done. And I say to her, please forgive me, because what I'm going to say, it's just out there. But the entire time, and I explained to her what had taken place and what the word was, she starts laughing hysterically, so hard she practically falls off the seat. When she composes herself, she says to me, do you want to know what that is? I said, well, only if you want to share, because it's for you, but it just was insistent on you hearing that word. She says, well, I'm married. Yes. I have 3 children. Yes. Peanut butter is our code word to meet in the bedroom by ourselves and actually have a good time. And we've not had peanut butter for a while. So yes.
Oh, that is the best.
I just thought that was great. But it was one of those things where when somebody says about psychics and they're full of hooey, where on earth would I get that from? I mean, really, that is so just out there that you know it's relevant to the person.
I love that. That's such a great story, and I just want to go back to what you were saying about all our senses, which that really hit me when you said that because I went, wow, how true is that? And I never thought about, I just thought about the most obvious ones. I didn't
Mhm.
think about the taste. So we can be these walking, well, empaths, but what, I don't know what the word is I'm
We
looking
are
for.
receptors. We are receptors. We just have to
Right.
pay attention to our way of receiving information because everybody's a little different.
Yeah, and but we're receiving I believe, but for me, I always think, well, I get it in a dream, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, a dream, or I get it with, in meditation, or I'll see a sign or something like that. But there's so many other ways, and I'm glad that you reminded us of that because that's so important to realize that because I always say we're picking information up all the time,
We
but
are.
now it has even more meaning to me. But I recently uh, decided that okay, so how do I make this story really short? I made the decision that I needed to sell the house. And you know that my husband passed away 3 years ago,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I just I was thinking about it, and then all of a sudden it was a rush of I got to do it, I got to do it now. Within 24 hours it sold. But this was the funny thing, I had a dream about, I thought it was a dream, and my husband came to me and he said, it's all okay, it's all right. And you know how much I love my house.
Yes.
So it was, but I knew, just
Beautiful.
thank you, but I just knew that, it was time, but it was a rush. So he came to me and goes, it's okay, it's all right. Anyway, so the next day I got all these offers within 24 hours. I contracted with someone who paid me $5,000 more than what I was asking, the asking price. And on top of that, there were some other things that happened that were miraculous. And then they told me the closing date. And wouldn't you know, the closing date is the date that my husband passed.
Mhm.
And then the inspector, which I guess I can mention it, that the company, the inspectors that are doing the person who's doing the inspection, the company is called Guardian Angels. So I mean,
Divine.
really,
That is
really,
not just, oh, happenstance or oh, coincidence. I mean, truly,
that's
that
too
is
much.
divinely
And
ordained.
right. And there were a couple of other little things, which I'm not going to go into, but it was like, wow, that really was him. It
Mhm.
wasn't just a dream. It was him going, it's okay. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. So I do
So
know that, yes. What were you going to
I was
say?
just going to say to bring it full circle for you, even though you know these things, you have to at times be reminded. Not specifically from me, but there's something that you see, or there's something that you hear, or there's just so many signs that show up that you go, wait, this is real. And that's empowerment. I mean, really think about it. When you know that you're not alone and you know that you're being guided and you're being helped, that's huge. Makes life so much easier.
And it reminds me, somebody said to me, I have a couple of groups that I'm involved with, intention groups, and I was going through all of this before I sold the house, and I wasn't sure, but I was waiting, and they told me that I know this really good book, The Year of Living Miraculously.
They told you about your own book. I love it.
I know, they said you should really read it, Michelle, and I went, I just
You said,
gulped
I'll be
and.
happy to sign it for you.
But the funny thing is that, and I've posted this plenty of times, that sometimes I say, take my advice, I'm not using it. So
That's good. I have to remember that one.
I love that saying, take my advice, I'm not using it. And I actually got that. A friend of mine, Seal, when she was in sales, she used to have all of these great little sayings, but that one I remember specifically. Take my advice. I'm not using it. So it's really great. And so all of this that we're talking about this evening, which is, I think, so wonderful to bring a lot of this out, because
Mhm.
again, many times when we're talking about spirituality, we don't include that sexual being part of us in it, like, oh no, that's separate. But it really isn't separate.
Mm-mm. Think about it
We're
like this. We are made to connect. I mean, really, our bodies are made to connect. How could that be separate from everything else? It
and
doesn't make sense.
and I would also always encourage people, and I know that you do too, that one of the ways to develop all our areas of spiritual involvement is to meditate, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes for people who find it difficult to meditate, just stopping and breathing and listening to the sound of their breath and doing it for a period of time, meaning not just 30 seconds, but actually consciously taking a deep breath in through the nose, bringing it down and through the system all the way to the stomach, and then slowly releasing it, and doing that for several minutes, they begin to go into that altered state. They begin to meditate, and it's with
Yes.
ease.
Yes, that's such a good point, because breathing, there are practices. I know that Dr. Andrew Weil, has some great, I was going to say tapes, but that's so, I'm sorry, dated. I won't say, I won't even say CDs, because that's embarrassing too. Um, but he has MP3s. Is that correct? Can we say that? Because I still,
That's audio, yes, because MP4 obviously is
oh,
video.
okay. Yeah, I got to tell you something. I still listen to CDs. I still have the last CD recorder. I think that was made. And my daughter saw me one day, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, well, it's an antique. Maybe I can get money for it. I'm not sure. But she said, what are you doing? And I said, I have these CDs and I know I could convert them,
Mhm.
but why do I want to? I have a CD player and I have the CD. And, but anyway, to circle back to Andrew Weil, he has these wonderful MP4s or CDs or whatever you want on breathing and breathing exercises that bring you to a heightened state,
Yes.
and also to a state of ecstasy, even, and so breathing is so important. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And as you said about meditating, it doesn't have to be. I think people think that it's hard and that it has to be a certain way and that you have to do it for a certain time, and none of that is true, right?
No, that's one thing that I love about teaching meditation. I used to love teaching over at Nova and privately, is that you shift people's understanding of what they believe to be true when they find that it doesn't have to be difficult. Just 3 minutes a day of visualizing can change your life. 1 minute of consciously taking a breath a few times a day can make a huge difference. Getting quiet simply by listening to your favorite music and being by yourself for a moment or two. All of these things open the door to meditation. Meditation does not need to be where you're sitting cross legged and your fingers are in the perfect mudra and you're meditating. Is that one way? Yes, but it's not the only way. And the nice thing, too, when you meditate, once you do it on a consistent basis, you want to do it more because you like those endorphins. You like feeling good. You
It,
like being oxygenated and relaxed and excited all at the same time. I mean, it's a great feeling. Who wouldn't want to do it?
I know. I would say I probably start every day
Mhm.
with just about every day with meditation, sometimes short, sometimes longer. It just depends. There was something really important I wanted to share, and we were talking about sexuality, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, but not quite. And I was hoping that somebody who I always communicate with on Facebook, Sean was on tonight, and I don't think he is because he would have benefited from this, I think, or he would have gotten a kick out of it. In
Okay.
numerology, here's a little tidbit of information. If you have an N, an E, and a W in your full name, and we're going by your full name at birth,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't have to be in any order. Like if your first name is Edwin and your last name is Walters or something like that, as long as someplace in that name there are those three letters, I used to use this when I was dating. No kidding.
What's your name? I
No
gotta know.
kidding. Okay, I guess I can say this. The hottest guys always had that NEW. I call it the NEW Trinity. And usually they're these, I would say 95% of the time, if not 99, these are people who are passionate. Okay, let's start from here. Passionate about whatever it is that they do. They give 110%, no in between. Then if you want to go a little bit deeper, sometimes what it is they're also, well, they are also sensual, but then they could be very sexual, very, very sexual. And you could take that even further. So they can be a lot of fun, and sensual and romantic. But you have to be careful too, because depending on other aspects in their name, it could
Right.
also, yeah, it could also go
Would be
into
other effects.
addictions and
Mhm.
not good. But to start off with, I mean, I'm telling you, the NEW Trinity, it's always served me well. And usually my girlfriends too. When I found that out, it was, you're not going to believe this. I was taught that by Kevin Quinn Avery. He taught me numerology way back in the 80s.
Mhm.
And could it be that long? And I was just a babe at the time. So, but I shared that little bit of information with them and they were like, really? And I go, yeah, but let me get the whole name because then
Right.
I could tell some other things. Um, so that's a little bit of sexuality and numerology. And kind of to wrap it up a little bit, um, well, I was going to talk about the vibrations for the coming month, but we're still in the mid-July, so I'm not going to. Do you have any psychic impressions at all that you wanted to share with anyone about what might be coming up or not, or are you still kind of working all that out in your
Well,
head?
not so much working it out as it's just been interesting because things seem to be coming in waves. And for instance, in November of last year, I had this overwhelming feeling that something was going to hit. And it had been something that had been coming in and out for close to a year. And I have a dear friend who's very intuitive and said to her, honestly, there's something that's going to hit here, and it's the world. It's not just local. There's something heavy duty that's just on the precipice. Don't you feel something? And she said, yeah. She says, I've been having dreams on and off for a year. I had to laugh because we hadn't really discussed it. And then all of a sudden, she gave some validity to how I was feeling. And then all of a sudden, obviously, COVID hit. And when it hit, I almost relaxed, as crazy as that sounds, as bad as it is. But it was that, oh, good, I get to see what this is instead of being overwhelmed, wondering what this is and feeling so poorly all the time that something's going to hit. And then I went to, okay, September, why September? And there was this sense of something was going to lighten, something was going to shift. And I'm still feeling that way. I'm still feeling with this whole situation that there is going to be a turn in September. However, the world as we know it has changed when it comes to the masks and everybody needing to be careful. That's not going away so fast. I'd love to say it's immediate, but I know in my heart of hearts it's not. It's going to stay for a while. We can anticipate a shift, a little break if you want in September, but then I feel like by the time we get close to election time, there's something else that's on the precipice here that we're going to feel. I know a lot of people were talking about second wave. I don't really feel that it's a second wave, but I feel that there's something else that is going to show up that also has our full attention, also has us going, how are we handling this?
That
Our
is,
world is changing. And I don't know if numerology tells you the
yes.
same thing. Okay.
Yes.
Because
And astrologically, I had a Maya White on, And she said, I mean, we're all apparently in sync about it. Like, you know, there's going to be this, but then something else is showing up for sure. Something else is showing up. So thank you for that. And
Absolutely.
our time is almost up, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And I hope in the future I can be just a little more attentive to the people who are commenting, because we do appreciate your being on this call with us, or this video webinar with us, and taking your time to be with us. And so whatever it is that you'd like to hear about, please let us know, because we want to show up for you in a way that you want us to show up. So anything that you're wanting to know about, please let us know. And if you subscribe to my email, and you can do that by just getting in touch with me at Michele Landers at bellsouth.net, and that's with one L. I'll give you a little surprise, a free ebook on how to calculate your life path number, your house number, and your personal year number. So if that's of interest to you, let me know. And Hallie, please, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And please
Pleasure.
share with people how they can get in touch with you.
Okay. Obviously, they can find me on Facebook like they can you, and as well on Instagram. There's my website, which is hallieelise.com, and that's HALLEYELISE.com. If you Google me, you'll see there are pages and pages and pages of information, because, like you, I've been around for a long time. You could also just send a message via email to either info@hallieelise.com or hallie@hallieelise.com. Basically, you could write mud@hallieelise.com and I will get the email. And try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, we do try to make it easy. And right now, everything is virtual, but it's turning out pretty well, right? It's okay. I mean, I see clients on Zoom and on the phone, and do classes on Zoom. And I know that we all are, right? That's the
Yes.
venue we're using.
Not so much Zoom as far as one-on-one. I do have some folks that really prefer that. I just find, as I shared earlier, electronically, things don't always sit the way they should. I am seeing some people at the office, it's very limited. There are certain restrictions as far as them coming in and when they come in and how they come in. It's a whole process, whereas before it was just basically set an appointment, but it's okay managing. I am doing a lot of phone sessions for people who are out of the country and for people who are on different time zones. It just makes it easy. So it's not as if we're lacking, we're just changing how we do things. And what's evolution, right? Change.
Exactly. Well, what is it? The one unchangeable thing about life is that it always
Yeah,
changes.
absolutely.
And with that, I want to thank everybody again for showing up. And I'll see you next week. I'm not sure who my guest is next week. It'll be a surprise
That's
to
fun.
me as well. And everybody have a great week, and take care, be positive, and know that you are unique and that you're loved. Bye
Thanks
bye.
so much. Bye.